Good morning, everyone, and I hope you're enjoying a calm Monday after the weekend of quite brutal storms, actually. I know that the UK's been hit quite hard and parts of Ireland as well. It was pretty wild here, and so I chose to just stay inside and light the fire and cook and do nice things to keep me warm and feeling safe. So, but I also really like the kind of wildness of that kind of storm. So I don't know how you feel about that. So today I'm still kind of in the theme of love. I know it was Valentine's Day last week, and it's tempting to just focus on love and all that that means to us and all that it feels to us just for one day. But I really think that we need to honour our ability to love, to receive love, and to give love, and what that means in terms of how we feel about everything, how important it is, and how we can choose it over living in fear or hate. And that, like anything, takes a bit of practice. So I think that our focus on love and the source of love, which is actually our hearts, it doesn't come from our heads, it comes from our hearts. And that, to me, is a kind of ongoing practice, and particularly relevant, actually, at this time of year, because obviously the whole of nature is gearing up to wake up and to fluff up our feathers and to ultimately, obviously, in nature, it's largely about reproduction. Doesn't have to be, and it certainly isn't for me anymore. But nonetheless, it's a good opportunity, I think, to focus on love and how we communicate love to ourselves and to others. And it may be that it's time for you to ask yourself, well, how do I love in my relationships, or just generally in the world? Where am I with love and all that means? And I know that I spoke about that a little bit last week in my message, and I'm sure that many of you have had lots of other messages about love from various different sources. But really, it comes down to how well we communicate, I think, with our hearts. And I know that we are encouraged to mind our heart health generally. You know, there's lots of good advice out there about how we can do that with our diets, with food largely, with exercise, with fresh air, all those kind of things. And I'm not going to go into any of that today, although it is a big part of how I live my life and how I practice. I'm more interested in you can't really disentangle the physical heart and the health of the physical heart with the emotional heart, or the spiritual heart, if you want to call it that. But the emotional heart is something that we often don't consider when we're thinking about, how can I mind my heart health? And I know that for me personally, there came a time in my life when I realised that I had been overprotecting my heart, if you like. And that's something that the subconscious mind does all the time. It thinks it's protecting you, and it sets up really effective, really really effective protective mechanisms to do that. And in my case, when I was on my very early health journey, one of the homeopathic remedies that really helped me to understand that and to soften my own heart and understand what had happened to me and what I had chosen to do and how it was affecting all my relationships, actually, that wonderful remedy, which I use a lot in my own practice, is a remedy called Nature Muir, or Nat Muir, it's sometimes abbreviated as. And it is originally, it's made from salt. And as you know, or perhaps you don't know, but salt is essential to our life. It's had a very bad press in recent years, and that many people, especially people with heart disease, are encouraged to cut salt out of their diet. And sometimes that may be the case, and sometimes it's actually detrimental to our health. We cannot live without salt. And salt helps things to flow. And when you consider that we are over 80%, some people believe, water, we need that water to flow, and we need everything within us to flow. And there should be, like the oceans, there should be a gentle ebb and flow of everything, of every fluid in our body, and also our emotions and our feelings. And Nature Muir is a remedy that really helps when we have experienced some kind of very deep, painful hurt, emotional hurt, particularly a loss of some sort, a death maybe, the ending of a relationship, the ending of a job even, where we have invested a lot of ourselves, and we feel deeply, deeply betrayed or lost or abandoned by that ending. And what our subconscious does is it obviously logs that as something that you do not want to experience again. And it will start building a wall around your emotional heart. Because if you can keep a barrier up, if you can keep people at arm's length, keep them out, keep those emotions out, then the chances of you experiencing that deep hurt and pain again is minimal. And that is very effective for that for a while. But what the subconscious doesn't understand, and what we come to understand, parts of us understand later on, is that barriers are very effective at keeping things out, but they also keep things in. And they're not discriminatory either, in that they will keep everything out. So over time, it becomes a habitual thing to just not be intimate with anyone, to not show your vulnerability, to be unable to show emotion to anybody, or perhaps, one or two chosen people, but that's it. And it's not that you don't feel those feelings anymore. It's just they cannot be shown. They cannot be seen by anybody. So crying alone, being very upset by movies or books, feeling them deeply, but totally unable to share them with anyone. Because of what that might mean. It might mean that we have a closer, more intimate relationship. And obviously, subconsciously, that's associated with pain. So, Nature Muir helped me enormously to understand that that's exactly what I had done for a very long time. And it was keeping me from developing various relationships in my life and going deeper and connecting more with my heart. Often what can happen is that we're very good perhaps at giving love in a kind of practical way, so doing whatever is necessary and looking after others, being the first person to be, clearing things up and being practical and being helpful. But unable totally to be there emotionally. So there's a kind of absence that other people feel, and that's a barrier to you having successful, rich, intimate relationships. So as I say, Nature Muir helps me enormously. It's just one of very many homeopathic remedies that can address why you may have chosen to overly protect your heart and your emotions. So being able to take that wall down nice and gently and remove those bricks, brick by brick, or sometimes, row upon row, whatever is a good pace for you, will transform your ability to love, to give love, but also to receive love. And that's where it all starts. So I wanted to encourage you today to not turn your attention away from your heart, both physically and emotionally. What can you do, perhaps on a daily basis, to just connect in with your heart and how you're feeling? Because traditionally in the West, our society encourages doing everything from the head, doing everything from the mind, and disregarding what you feel in your heart. And actually, it surprised me to learn a few years ago that there are more messages sent from our heart to our brain than the other way around. So we're kind of trained to think of the brain as being the one that's in charge. It's not really, it's the heart. And many scientists now know that there is a heart brain, as well as there being a gut brain. So it's not all about what's going on up here. It's very much to do with what's going here, and we are often disconnected from that. So I wanted to encourage you today to do whatever you can to set your intentions for how are you going to mind your heart health. That could be physical. It could be, yes, actually, I really need to look at my diet, nutrition, and I need to maybe incorporate some kind of movement or exercise that will help my heart to be able to pump and my body to move as it should. Could be that. That's just as valid, because it's all cyclical. Or circular, I think I meant to say. If we look after our physical heart, then often it's going to mean that we're better able to look after our emotional heart. If we look after our emotional heart health, that in turn will help the physical. So it's all good, basically, but I wanted to encourage you to do something. It's particularly important for us women, because actually, strangely, although men have more heart attacks, women are 50% more likely to die from heart disease than men, which is quite a shocking statistic, actually. And that risk increases in postmenopausal women. It also increases in women who are taking HRT or the oral contraceptive pill. So, and that's statistics from the American Heart Association. So they're not, this is a medical stance. So why that is, many, many reasons, I'm sure. I can't help but feel that as women, we do operate much more from our hearts than men tend to do. Thank you very much for the thumbs up, and you're very welcome. And yeah, if there's anything that you disagree with or that you want to comment on, please do. But it's very important that we mind ourselves and mind our hearts. But I think from a women's perspective, we do operate from our hearts much more than men do, rather than our heads. And many of us have been kind of trained to ignore our hearts, and I think that puts a great strain on them. So, without further ado, obviously, if there's anything going on with your heart, even if it's just physical, what the pharmaceutical industry has on offer for heart disease is quite limited, and often actually doesn't really do what it says it's meant to do. I'm not going to go into that. What I will go into is that there are loads and loads of remedies in homeopathy that are available to support any kind of heart dis-ease. So it's not purely emotional, physically as well. Wonderful tonic that I use a lot in my practice is Crataegus. And Crataegus is made from hawthorn berries. And it was originally discovered by a doctor here in Ireland, in County Clare, a Dr. Green from Ennis in County Clare. And his reputation for curing people with heart disease of all descriptions using this tincture and others spread far and wide, and people came from all over the place. England, which in those days was a long journey, just to be treated by him. And many of the pharmaceutical drugs that are in existence now were originally based on things like Crataegus, the hawthorn berry. There are many others. Another big one is cactus, a huge heart remedy. Lots and lots of remedies available from a physical perspective and from an emotional perspective. So that's working with a practitioner, really, because that's not something you'd want to try and do yourself. But there are little simple things that I like to do. Just maybe spending 10 minutes, not even that, daily, just shutting your eyes, putting your hands on your heart space, and just thinking about something or someone that you love unconditionally. That brings a smile to your face. I find babies and animals are great for this. And just allowing yourself to be flooded with those lovely, loving feelings that come up. And often when you're thinking about that, I'm thinking about my son when he was a baby, actually. Just smelling the lovely smell of babies, that gorgeous chocolatey smell. And just what happens physically is that your whole system is flooded with feel-good hormones, and everything calms down, everything relaxes, because you're sending messages that you're safe and that everything is okay, all is well in the world. And the more we can do that, the better, basically. Because when we live in fear and anxiety, or even hate, there's a surge of adrenaline, which is there as an emergency to help you if you're really in danger. It's not supposed to be sustainable. And one of the things it does, one of the many things it does when we choose to be in that state more than we should be, is that our heart beats even faster than it should. And that will strain it over time. So these days, in particular, living in permanent fear and anxiety, mind your hearts. The other thing that I like to do is I do like my crystals. And this beautiful crystal here, that's a rough one. It's only small. You can get them even smaller. And there's bigger ones. Rose quartz, beautiful rose quartz. Whether you want to fully invest in crystals or not, they're a useful anchor, if you like, for love. Rose quartz is the crystal of love and the heart, and helps the heart to open and soften. Just having one in your pocket if you're out and about, and perhaps just holding on to it and having it as a reminder to connect in with your heart. And just see, how's your heart feeling today? Have you connected in with your heart? And where are you on loving yourself, every bit of you, and ultimately then being able to love others intimately and fully? Because I think we need to, if we're going to transform ourselves and transform the world around us and all our relationships, we definitely need to be living from a place of love, not fear or anxiety. Our heads need to be led by our hearts and not the other way round. So I hope that message resonates with you. And if you can share any little practice that you already do, or even just something that you eat or don't eat, anything at all that you know helps your heart health, either physically, emotionally, or spiritually, then please do share. It would be really useful for others just thinking, well, what can I do to help my heart health? And if you do want to know more about perhaps helping your heart to open more, to soften, and to allow that lovely flow in and out, then just click on the link with this video and consider coming to work with me. We can do that homeopathically, or we can do that with QTT work, or both. I like to work with both. But I think the more we can encourage our hearts to open and to have that lovely ebb and flow, then that's going to affect all our relationships. And then they in turn will be affecting the people that they have relationships with, even the animals. And we can live in a much nicer place. So thanks for the thumbs up. Thanks very much for watching. And if you're watching the replay, I'm equally grateful. And do put your comments in. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, love-filled week. Bye.